Caffeine and Coils, and I'm Deanna.
And I'm Jenny. All right, what's our hot topic today, Deanna?
Today we're going to be talking about VRF, and we have a very special guest with us, Steven LoCicero.
How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing well.
Great. So what is VRF? What does it stand for?
VRF stands for Variable Refrigerant Flow, and it is a very commercial style of what's called ductless. So people are probably very familiar with ductless.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is a fundamental principle behind VRF systems, something that a new technician would be able to understand? How would you put it for a new tech?
I would compare, like on the residential side, we have what's called zoning, right? One furnace, multiple thermostats, and that the zoning is with airflow. And with VRF, we do zoning with refrigerant. And so instead of ductwork, we have equipment that does the zoning for us. That's probably the easiest example of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more common in a commercial kind of setting?
Yep. Very common in commercial. We do a lot of schools, hotels, commercial buildings, mostly. It is starting to gain traction residentially, though, a lot with more new construction, bigger homes. So, yeah.
What is the advantage of having a VRF system in your home versus like a regular system?
I would say efficiency. So we're sitting next to the Infinity and Evolution systems, which is what you would mostly see in a home for higher efficiency and zoning and that kind of stuff. Where VRF is equally, if not more efficient than our Infinity Evolution, and it provides you more flexibility with equipment location.
What would the percentage be of like how much more efficient is it?
So this is this right here is our 5-stage unit. It's 19 SEER. SEER rating is that government efficiency level, and we are equal to, if not more efficient, but provide more flexibility with design.
Okay.
So I would say that's our biggest advantage, is the flexibility with design, and then also being able to simultaneously heat one room and cool a different room.
Okay.
Where traditionally in a heat pump application, you can either only heat or cool. You can be at different you can be at different temperatures in those spaces, but with VRF you can do different modes altogether.
Okay. Nice.
So if you want to keep one room warm for your 15-year-old cat, you could do that with VRF while I'm staying cool in my office.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
That sounds good.
This makes a lot of sense too. My husband does a lot of high-density residential stuff, so like apartment complexes and things like that. This would probably be a good application for something like that, no?
Well, I would say yes and no.
Yeah.
More, I would say, on the commercial, let's say office style, instead of apartments. And the reason I say that is because legally you can't use one piece of equipment with multiple home spaces for billing purposes.
Okay.
Okay, because you wouldn't know who to bill for the $80 of heat
Correct.
versus the $60.
Yeah.
Gotcha, that makes sense.
And there actually is devices that will do that, but they just don't legally qualify. So that application actually does work, but actually transitioning to, in the medical field, we do assisted living centers.
Okay.
And this is a great application for assisted living. And as far as it's called heat recovery. Heat recovery is what we'll do simultaneously heating and cooling.
Okay.
And we do install it in that application. Yeah.
What are some common misunderstandings about VRF systems that you come across?
I think the common misunderstanding is that it's very hard to work on or very hard to install. And even as when I first got started with VRF, it's very intimidating. But if you really just take a look at it, it's not as hard as it looks, and they're actually not as hard to install as they seem.
Has it gotten easier like with time as things have progressed with technology?
Yep, I mean VRF's been around for a long time. On the carrier specific side, our product came out in 2015, and I think that it has become easier over time. People are buying into the product. And I'm doing a lot more trainings in our Marietta lab with VRF, so the concept is becoming more well known and it's being sold more,
Yeah.
I think more people are seeing it. So yeah, I think over time and continuing to grow, I think it'll be easier over time.
So as far as install and servicing, what do you see the most problems? Like, what is the most common issue that you see?
Yeah. So similar to a residential like ductless style of system, there's refrigerant leaks. So a lot of the connection points are what's called flare joints, and they leak in the flared area. And so installation is super key to having success with VRF, and mostly due to refrigerant leaks. The equipment itself isn't leaking, it's mostly a connection point that leaks. And then discovering the leak and then diagnosing it can be challenging. So that initial installation, I think, is the key. As far as servicing the equipment, really learning the software, because everything has a program. So we have the Carrier Bryant product and we have the Toshiba Carrier product. Both of them have their own servicing software. And I also teach a class solely on the software to learn that. Again, it's not as difficult as it sounds. It's more learning what all the acronyms mean, because there's 1,000 acronyms. It doesn't say like high pressure and low pressure, right? It's an acronym for that number or for that value. So,
Is there like a resource for that?
there is, and nobody knows where to find it. So,
Okay.
so that's kind of why I teach it. But yeah, it actually is on HVAC Partners. There's a book called the Quick Reference Guide, and the Quick Reference Guide has all of the acronyms and all of what they mean. That's just half the battle. And then the other half of the battle is learning how to take those values and make a decision on why the equipment's not working based off those values.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be fair, by the way, it is kind of hard to find stuff on there. I've looked for
On Partners?
specific things, and
Yeah.
I'm like, where the heck is this? I don't know.
Yeah. And I will say too, I mean, while Partners is available to everybody, being that I'm in the tech support group for Mingledorff's, half of what makes us good at our job is we know where to find out at.
Yeah.
You know, but we also look at it all day. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can link that in the description.
Yes, we can. As far as new developments, we have new refrigerant coming in. Is there anything specific to VRF that everyone needs to know about that?
The transition from 410A to 454B is going to happen with VRF. It's going to happen a little slower, I think, than it is on the residential market, but it's going to happen. And really, what I'm being told at this moment, there's not a ton of technical information besides the fact that it's going to happen. But what I've been told is that the pressures will be similar, actually maybe a little less. So as far as equipment design with coils and all that, it should be a very similar diagnostic process and very similar process with the new refrigerant. Back in 2005 to 2008 is when we discovered that the R22 coils weren't holding up to the 410A pressure. And I don't foresee that same issue with the new refrigerant. It should be hopefully an easier transition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there different kinds of VRF systems? And is there like a certain factor that technicians should consider when installing them in different applications?
Yeah. So there is a heat pump application where you can either heat or cool, but not both at the same time. And then there's what's called heat recovery, which is where you can do both simultaneous. The major differences between like a multi-zone ductless, which most of our listeners are probably familiar with, compared to VRF, really is the thermal zone. So if you have the sun beating on one side of the house and not the other side, you may over-condition one of those sides of the house with regular ductless. And with VRF, even though they're both heat pumps, we have extra components, extra expansion valves that will stop the flow of refrigerant and make that thermal application easier to control. So there are some design considerations when choosing VRF over ductless on the residential side. When it comes to commercial, we mostly deal with heat recovery, which is that simultaneous heat and cool. And then there also is the heat pump application for commercial, which would be like a gymnasium or a church or something like that, a large open space. So when it comes to technical stuff, it's mostly on the design side. Yeah.
Interesting. So on design stuff, do you guys typically just get plans that are pre-made, or do you guys have to help design? Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah, so we do a lot of what's called plan and spec, which where we get the design and we will bid the project based off the design. And whether it's, and we also, because we have 2 product lines, let's say one of our competitors were to have the plan and spec, we can use one of our product lines to help also bid that job.
Okay.
So I would say a lot of our work's plan and spec, but some of it we do have a team at Mingledorff's that also helps design projects, and you know, so we do some of that too.
Nice.
Yep.
Do you have any advice for technicians who want to specialize in VRF systems?
Yeah. My biggest advice would be to
Attend our classes.
Honestly, yes. On a serious note, yeah, attend the class. Really attend the installation class first. Get that baseline knowledge. Understand what the equipment can and can't do. And then come to our service class and learn the software. Truthfully, a technician who really wants to get good at VRF needs to learn the software and how to read the software. You know, hooking it up is probably the easiest part. It's, okay, now that it's hooked up, now what, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge.
I feel like a lot of our stuff is starting to get really technology involved, which is
Yeah,
good.
that's
Yeah.
true.
So, yeah, that would be the first thing on my list to learn and make sure that I'm tech savvy if I was a technician in this field.
And you know, and I started in 2007. Things were easier then than they were in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
As far as diagnostic work. But even then, since I've gotten started to where we are now, technology has gone crazy.
Yeah.
Even with our evolution, or even our basic furnaces now, we program the blower motors with our cell phone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
cool.
there's a lot of Bluetooth technology that's come into the residential market, which is even more just amplified in the commercial market. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Exciting.
For new technicians, like me, I thought that things in the 2000s were easier than the 90s, and newer technicians today probably think things are easier now than they were in the 2000s, right? I think being comfortable with your devices, with your phones and computers, is probably making heating and air diagnostic a lot easier.
Yeah, and we actually talked about that on our Emerging Trends episode. If you guys want to go back and listen, we talked about IntelliSense and we talked about NFC furnaces. So
Yep.
I do think it's important to stay up to date with all the technology while maintaining knowledge of how to use the old stuff, just in case, you know, there's like, what do they call those, the EMF? Electromagnetic.
Yeah.
I can't even remember.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
you know, just in case, if your phone dies or if something fails,
Sure.
you have the knowledge and tools to still service a unit. Do you have anything else, Jenny?
I think that's it. I think that's all I've got.
Do you have anything else you want to touch on with VRF?
I think one of the things we were going to talk about too was the major components of VRF.
Okay.
And I think that in the addition, so when I say we can simultaneously heat and cool, that's done through refrigerant instead of air, right? So we have something called a branch box, or we call it something different, but branch box is the easiest thing to do. All the refrigerant goes to that particular box, and then each port or each area of that box has its own reversing valve, which decides kind of where the refrigerant goes. So the extra component in VRF versus ductless or even a residential system would be that branch box.
Okay.
But really outside of that, it's, again, not as intimidating as it sounds. So,
Okay.
but I think that's about it.
All right. All right, now we're going to play our game. Are you ready?
Okay, let's explain like the rules and how this is gonna go first. I'm a little nervous that this is not gonna work out as well as we hoped.
Okay, we might have to cut out all this, but. So what we're going to do is Steven is going to say a phrase, but you're going to say one for me, you're going to say one for her.
Okay.
So you'll be able to listen in on the first one.
okay. Okay. Yeah, you go first.
And then I'm going to have in my AirPods, so I can't hear you, and I'm going to have to try to read your lips, and I'm going to say what I think you're saying, and then you guys will have to, like, let me know if I get it right.
Okay.
But I'm going to have to, like, play some, like, white noise or something, so I really can't hear you for real.
Oh, I got to think of phrases. This is the hard part. Because I've already said the only two that I actually know.
Oh, gosh.
You could do, like, you could just say, like, a celebrity's name. or
Okay,
something.
I actually think I have some.
Oh, you have
A
something?
celebrity's
Maybe.
name is a good idea. I
Yeah,
like
we can
that
do
one.
that.
Hang on, let me put on my rain noise.
This is gonna be so hard for me. I do not read lips well.
Okay, let me test and see if I
All
can
right.
hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No, I can't hear you.
That's
Okay.
awesome. All right,
Except
so
she
you're
just
ready.
answered the question.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's go.
There are plenty of fish in the sea.
How long is this phrase?
That was it. That was short, right? Jenny, was that short?
Hang on.
It
Okay.
was pretty short.
There are plenty of fish in the sea.
The fusion of the something.
Negative.
Okay, say it again.
There are plenty of fish in the sea.
Oh, there's plenty of fish in the sea.
Okay, that's it? Yeah.
I'm gonna be terrible. He's like the worst one to try to read lips. It's really hard to read his lips. Oh, I'm so nervous for this. This is not gonna be very good. But we're gonna figure it out.
You got it. I got mine after a couple tries.
That was good. Did you, like, hear me at all, or did you?
No, but I recognized that. At first, I thought you were saying something about therapy, but then I
Okay.
realized you were saying plenty.
Plenty. Sorry.
And then I
yeah.
just knew, because that's a common phrase, plenty of fish in the sea.
Okay. All right, in the spirit of Christmas, I'm not saying anything yet. So
Okay,
in the
hold on.
spirit of Christmas, I'm going to go with a celebrity.
Okay.
Okay? Bruce Willis.
Moose?
Bruce Willis.
One more time.
Bruce Willis.
Okay.
Okay,
I
we're
need
gonna
a new one.
we're gonna change it. Okay.
Okay.
Ready? Die Hard.
Okay, I feel like this one's Die Hard because you
That's
just
it. Yeah. Yeah.
What was the first one?
Bruce Willis. Yeah.
It's like something moose. Something moose. Like that was so hard.
I thought that was hilarious.
That's funny.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.